On the calm blue waters of the Atlantic, beneath the bright sunlight of May 7, 1915, a luxury ocean liner sliced forward in total confidence, unaware that in just minutes, it would plunge into history and help pull the United States into the deadliest war the world had ever known. Her name was RMS Lusitania, and her final voyage was about to become one of the most controversial disasters of the 20th century. At the beginning of the 1900s, the RMS Lusitania represented everything modern civilization admired: speed, wealth, comfort, power. She was one of the fastest passenger ships ever built, capable of crossing the Atlantic in under 5 days. For travelers, she was a floating palace, decorated with crystal chandeliers, elegant dining halls, and staterooms softer than most hotel beds on land. For Britain, she was a symbol of pride, a technological titan of the seas. But for Germany, locked in brutal war with Britain, Lusitania was something more, a threat. By 1915, World War I had devoured Europe. Millions were already dead. Trenches stretched across France like scars on the earth. Behind the front lines, nations fought not just with rifles and artillery, but with starvation and economic warfare. Britain blockaded German ports to cut off food and supplies. Germany responded by unleashing a new terror: unrestricted submarine warfare. Their U-boats prowled the Atlantic, torpedoing ships without warning. Germany had publicly declared that the waters around the British Isles were now war zones. Any ship passing through, civilian or military, could be targeted. This was no idle threat. Merchant vessels began disappearing beneath the waves. When Lusitania prepared to sail from New York to Liverpool in May 1915, the warning was already issued. In fact, a paid advertisement from the German embassy appeared in newspapers, cautioning travelers that ships sailing to Britain were entering dangerous waters. Still, few people believed that Germany would dare attack a civilian passenger liner full of innocent men, women, and children, especially with American citizens on board. On May 1, Lusitania departed New York carrying nearly 2,000 souls. Among them were wealthy travelers, families returning home, artists, business people, and more than 120 Americans. They enjoyed formal dinners, music performances, and bright spring weather. The reality of war felt distant, almost fictional. But in the deep cold waters near Ireland, a German submarine, U-20, stalked its prey. Captain Walter Schweiger of the U-20 had already sunk several ships when Lusitania crossed his path. Through his periscope, he spotted the massive liner on the horizon. He knew exactly what it was. He also knew the consequences of firing. Despite the size and fame of Lusitania, Schweiger made his decision. At 2:10 p.m., a single torpedo slammed into the starboard side of the ship. The explosion was devastating, but it didn't come alone. Seconds later, a mysterious second blast ripped through Lusitania's interior, far more violent than the torpedo itself. To this day, historians debate its cause. Some argue it came from ruptured steam boilers, others suggest the detonation of secretly carried munitions. What followed was pure chaos. The great ship listed sharply to one side. Lifeboats jammed or smashed against the steel hull. Some slipped into the water upside down, spilling passengers into the sea. Inside the ship, hallways flooded instantly. Parents lost sight of children. Couples were torn apart by waves and crowds. The sound of screaming mixed with the thunder of collapsing metal. In just 18 minutes, the pride of British shipping was gone. Nearly 1,200 people drowned in the Atlantic that day, including 128 American citizens. Mothers clutched infants until the ocean claimed them both. Survivors floated for hours amid wreckage and bodies, praying for rescue. The news exploded across the world. In the United States, shock transformed into rage almost overnight. Newspapers filled front pages with illustrations of drowning women and children. "Murder on the high seas," they wrote. Stories of German cruelty fueled anger in American homes. President Woodrow Wilson faced enormous pressure to respond. Was this an act of war? Germany attempted to justify the attack. They claimed Lusitania was carrying weapons secretly for Britain, and technically, they weren't wrong. Hidden within the ship's cargo were small arms, ammunition, and military supplies. Germany argued that Lusitania was legally a military target, disguised as a civilian vessel. But to the American public, none of that mattered. They didn't see ammunition crates. They saw passenger lists with American names crossed out in red ink. President Wilson demanded reparations and an apology. Germany offered limited concessions, eventually restricting submarine warfare to avoid provoking the United States further. But the damage was already done. Trust was shattered. Public perception had shifted. America still did not enter the war immediately. Wilson attempted to hold onto neutrality for nearly 2 more years. Yet the sinking of the Lusitania lingered like a wound that never healed. Each new German submarine attack reopened that pain. In 1917, Germany returned to unrestricted submarine warfare, desperate to starve Britain before American intervention could arrive. At the same time, the infamous Zimmermann telegram surfaced, revealing Germany's plan to ally with Mexico in a war against the U.S. These final provocations were too much to ignore. On April 6, 1917, the United States officially entered World War I. While the Lusitania did not cause America's entry on its own, it became the emotional turning point, the moment when neutrality began to crumble and moral outrage ignited. The image of an unarmed ship sinking beneath waves of violence came to symbolize everything Americans came to fear and despise about the war. Years later, divers located the wreck of Lusitania resting nearly 300 feet below the surface. Her bones still lie there today, silent and broken. No matter how many decades pass, the Atlantic keeps her story frozen in time. The Lusitania was more than just a ship. It became a warning about the cost of modern warfare. It showed the horrifying reality of total war, where civilians were no longer spared, where technology erased the boundary between battlefield and home. For the families who lost loved ones, history offered no comfort. No victory erased the pain of never seeing husbands return, never watching children grow old, never closing the door of a safe reunion that would never happen. Even after the war ended and the guns finally went silent in Europe, the questions surrounding Lusitania refused to fade. Survivors carried memories heavier than any medal soldiers wore. Parents who escaped never forgot the faces of children they could not save. Crew members lived haunted by the screams echoing across crashing waves. Investigations began almost immediately. Britain insisted Lusitania was purely a passenger liner. Germany maintained that the ship was secretly armed and therefore a valid military target. Politics clouded the truth. Documents remained sealed. Witness accounts conflicted. The mystery of the second explosion deepened the controversy. Later records revealed uncomfortable facts. Lusitania did carry war supplies, including millions of rounds of rifle ammunition. Explosives were officially denied, but doubts never vanished. Some experts blamed coal dust or steam ignition. Others believed hidden high explosives were present. The truth sleeps with the wreck itself. Germany eventually paid compensation to families, but money could never replace husbands, wives, sons, or daughters lost to the sea. Britain never publicly admitted the full risks of transporting hidden military cargo aboard civilian vessels. In time, historians realized something darker. Lusitania marked the moment when civilians became instruments of war propaganda. Images of drowning mothers and children fueled recruitment and shaped political will. Emotion became a weapon rivaling bullets. American troops later sailed across the same Atlantic waters toward Europe, many carrying Lusitania's memory in their hearts. The war would claim over 16 million lives. Its costs stretched beyond battlefields into homes across the world. Deep beneath the waves, the Lusitania decays. Her grand staircases have collapsed. Her cabins house only silence and sea creatures. Shoes, suitcases, and bottles remain scattered like frozen moments of interrupted lives. Families of victims still honor the ship along Irish shores, casting flowers upon the water where no graves exist. The sea receives their grief. The Lusitania's true legacy lies not in legal debates but in what it revealed about modern war. Civilians were no longer sacred. Neutrality offered no shield. No space remained untouched. Her story remains a warning that oceans do not separate humanity from violence, that luxury never protects innocence, and that neutrality can drown just as easily as steel. RMS Lusitania did not simply sink into the Atlantic. She sank into the conscience of the world. One torpedo rewrote foreign policy. One ship reshaped public emotion. One tragedy shifted an entire nation's destiny. And as long as her shattered bones rest beneath the silent waves, she continues to whisper an eternal truth. In war, there are no true winners. Only deeper graves beneath darker seas.
So, subscribe our channel for more videos.